Here is my sock weight mitten, and I've got 15 stitches on the small part and 40 stitches on the longer part, and I've got it caught up so I have the same number of rows, and this is my working yarn on this end, and I'm ready to turn around and start just working the pattern in the 3-row repeat of knit, purl, knit until I get a piece big enough. I'll just keep measuring it around my hand as I go until I've got what I think fits correctly. Here is the worsted weight version, and I've already gone ahead. You can see these are now attached. I've got the buttonhole, thumb hole, and I've worked the first 3 rows the knit stocking knit pattern. Here's one stretched out so you can see the horizontal ribs really give it a lot of elasticity. And I've worked it until this is the fattest part of your hand, until it's stretched pretty good there, and that is what feels comfortable to me. If you get it really loose around this part of your hand, then it's going to be just sloppy loose around your wrist and around your fingers. So you want it to be stretched so that you can feel that it's holding on to you. I've also made sure that I end on an opposite pattern. So my last row here is stocking knit, my first row is reverse stocking knit. So when I sew this seam together, the pattern will just continue all the way around. To bind off, I'm just going to do a simple knitted bind off. I'm going to slip the first stitch, move the yarn to the back, knit a stitch, and then I'm going to pass this first slip stitch over the knitted stitch. Knit another stitch, pass the second stitch over the top of the stitch in front. And you end up with a really nice, looks like a chained edge all along the top where you've bound it off. So I'll finish binding that off, and then I'll show you how to stitch it together. I've finished binding off the edge down to my last loop. I've left myself about 3 feet of tail because I'm going to use my tail to stitch together the side of the mitten. Go through and pull my string through that last loop to secure it. Now this is going to be my right mitten, and I've decided that I want the seam to go on the palm side of my hand. So when you do your left mitten, make sure you pin it together properly for that. It's going to come together. Fold this back around. And make sure that I have both of the edges. They want to roll. Make sure you've got both of the edges. And then you can use pins, you can use stitch holders. Put one pin at one end, go back to the other end, pin that end, thumb hole, And then using a yarn needle, take your long tail that you left, and take the time to really put a lot of pins in there and make sure it's really put together. But then all you do is whip stitch, just going in this top edge, there's one stitch, and then move on to the next. One side of your cast on, one side of your bind off. And stitch it together. Then you're going to have all of these loose ends. And we don't tie knots. To leave the most elastic area around your thumb, you want to work this thread away from the thumb hole, not past the hole and down. And by going in this row right behind it, there you go, undid a stitch there, not good. There we go. We go in the purple stitch, the blue stitch. By working back and forth and disguising this, you hide your tails in and work it for several stitches. If you're nervous about it coming undone, then take a needle and sewing thread and stitch it into place. But don't tie knots.